Hi, I'm VK from the Spider Accomplice, and you are watching John the Ninja.
Ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? It's John the Ninja back in the dojo, and it is a live Friday night. I rarely get these type of interviews, and it's amazing. This is a great band that I got to meet while they were out on tour, and the best way to see them, the only way to see them, to be honest with you, is live. This two-piece alt-rock duo has a metal edge with a very pop vibe, and they are straight out of LA. And when I tell you their latest album, the Venomous Montage, it sounds creepy, but it's actually really cool. Some of the songs you get a real metal riff out of it. Other songs you get that real heartfelt song where you're in your feelings, and others you're like, damn, this really should have been on a movie. This went really really well. But the duo I am speaking of is the Spider Accomplice, and they are made up of VK Lynne and guitarist Arno Nurmisto. They have racked up a record-breaking 12 LA Music Critic Awards over the last 4 years. That makes them, the most winning band out of that particular genre. Man, that's actually really impressive. But with their unique sound and striking visual presence, they've become to actually be well established in their rock world. And the band loves to travel. They've toured the US and South America, and every time they come, they deliver. So guys, fresh off their tour with Visions of Atlantis, I give you the Spider Accomplice. Guys, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I can't tell you guys how good it is to see yous, and it's just, when we were talking, I'm gonna tell you straight up, Arno, you were the belle of the ball, man. I showed up before anybody else was there. We had fans walking up to you. You were saying what's up to people. I was like, I don't know him, but I'm definitely gonna know him at the end of the day. Guys, how did you feel about the tour? Now that it just ended recently. Visions of Atlantis is a great band, but seeing you guys really have that opportunity on stage, you opening for them, blew me away. How was your experience with that?
It was really great. It was nice to finally get to places that we haven't been before, that people have been asking us to come and play for, and we got to actually be there then and actually see people in person, in the flesh, and hug them and talk to them, and make that human connection that you can't always make online. So that was amazing. And also we got to see that outside of LA, there's a whole world of people who really do still like to come see live music, and they do still like to buy CDs. So we made some new fans and some people who were really shocked that we were what we were. They didn't expect us to be what we were, and they enjoyed it. So that was really nice. It was really nice because we went in prepared for anything. We thought, this could be a case where everyone hates us and starts to throw tomatoes. And we decided if they threw tomatoes, we were going to make sauce. And we didn't have to make any pasta because people were really into it. So that was kind of amazing. It made the whole month really magical.
Yeah, absolutely. It was awesome time. And, yeah, the reception, from the people was, it's unbelievable, so I didn't expect that one, but, I'm glad, we gave every night, we gave everything what we had, and people enjoyed that, and I'm very, very happy about that.
I think the one thing I enjoyed is like you guys are so personable with the fans, not just off the stage, but on the stage. You guys are a lot of back and forth. VK, you jumped into the crowd, you're singing with people. I mean, Arno, I could have swore there was like a time, I can't remember specifically because the moshing was happening for everybody. So I got knocked a couple of times, but man, you were like getting close to the crowd, playing if you were gonna get a peck or not. It was a lot of good crowd interaction. You both were out of LA. And Lynn, I know you came in 2001. Good sir, Arno, you're from Finland. I was just curious what brought you guys to LA, because now that you're touring and everything's opening up again, you guys made a statement where you said LA is where the musicians are, but going out of LA is where you find the fans. So what initially attracted you guys to LA in your circumstances?
I studied my college in Florida. I had never been to Los Angeles, so I always wanted to come over here and see what it's like, so I kind of like wanted to, well, let's go and see what's happening over there. So I've been over here for 14 years, and it's been amazing. And, you see so many great people and talented people over here. And so that's the one thing, over there. Everybody puts their craft in front of, their normal life, or so everybody's concentrating 100% on their music or writing or acting or anything like that. So a lot of talented people with big drive, So that's what, like I wanted to be a part of that also.
Yeah, I mean, I've wanted to move to Los Angeles since I was 12. I kind of always knew that I wanted to move there. And after living in Philadelphia for a while and I was doing music there, there was a guitar player who lived in Philly and he said to me, girl, you got to move to LA. This town is not a town for a girl with a guitar. And I remember him saying that and I was like, yeah, I know. And so finally we did. We just moved out here and I've been here for 20 years. And it's what Arno's saying is 100% true. Like you can always find people who want to jump into your creative, mess, whatever it is. Like if you've got a crazy idea, there's someone who wants to do it in LA and they're down. So it's good in that you've got a lot of different artists to work with. You've got a lot of places to try out your ideas, but it's a town of artists. So it's not really a town of people who are consumers of art. It's more people who are creators of art. So it's like anything else. I mean, you have to go to where the people want what you're providing. So once you get out of LA, there's not as many artists and there's not as many, bands and actors and comedians and all that stuff. So you go to a place where people are interested in live music because they don't see it all the time. Like there were a few places we went where they said they had driven like 100 miles to get there that night because they said, well, we don't get like big tours in our town. And in LA, you can't even imagine that. And that they would just drive to see the show. And they didn't even know the bands. They told me they had never heard Visions or us, but they saw the poster and they thought this looks like it's going to be fun. And for me, that was just magical, like just magical that we're bringing this to folks and they're so excited about it. So that's, you got to get out of LA to find people who still have that magic. Because once you're out here and you see how the sausage is made, it's just a little less magic. It's like, okay, I see how we did that.
And you know what? I'm so happy you touched on Philadelphia because I'm out here in Jersey, but Philly's my second home. It's brutal to me, but it's got a nice little edge to it. It really sharpens you. But Mira, I got to speak with Arno a little bit about how he fell into music and his influences, but we really didn't get to talk about how you fell into singing and playing. And when doing my research, I'm glad you brought it up. You said that you're from Philly, and then you went out to LA. I was curious what the dynamic was like when you initially got into music and your experiences in Philly, considering how important that city is for breaking musicians.
I grew up outside of Philly initially. I grew up out in Pennsylvania Dutch country. So it was a lot of country music and a lot of Beatles. My mom was a big Beatles girl. And so the dichotomy of those two things of like, I would wake up in the morning when I was 5 years old and she had an old record player and she'd either have on like Revolver and Rubber Soul or Patsy Cline and Dolly Parton. So those two things kind of rattled around my brain for a while. And then in high school, I started dating a guy who got me into metal. That's literally how it happened. Like I got into his car and he was playing Queensryche and Cannibal Corpse. And I was like, okay, I see where we're going with this. And for me, I just kind of have mixed it all together in my brain, but I didn't think of it that way until I started singing. And people were not understanding what's going on. Why is your voice got a kind of a country twang, but you also kind of sound rock and roll, and you also have a low voice. So someone told me once, you kind of sound like a man. I'm like, oh, thank you. Okay. So I picked up a guitar. I started learning to play, and I'm not Arno level. I'm a solidly mediocre acoustic guitar player, but I learned to play well enough to write my own songs. And so I started writing a lot of songs that were kind of Southern rock, Black Crowes, blues sounding stuff. And so I have 3 solo records, and that's mostly what they are. They are blues. They are blues with a little Southern rock influence. And I decided it was just time to bring it out to LA and see what they know there, because Southern rock blues in Philly,
hard sell.
Not so much. I love Philly. Once you're Philly, you're Philly, but you still go there, and if you're hanging out at the cheesesteak place at 2 a.m. and they start playing Boys to Men, everyone's singing because we all know every word, but we ain't singing blues rock. We ain't singing that. So I came out here, see what they got.
And then Arno, I didn't get to ask you this because it sparked my mind, being that, what's it, 14 years you've been in the States, you're a citizen. but at first you weren't really acquainted with the English language. You know, being that you had so many influences in rock, like Finland is like metal central now. You know, over there,
Yeah.
Germany, metal central, Finland. You know, I remember he's a famous actor. He was in 007. He was in Pirates of the Caribbean, No Country for Old Men. I believe his name is Bardem. I forgot his name. I ain't gonna lie to you guys. But he said that when he was a kid, he learned English through AC/DC. He just had to learn what
Oh,
Bon Scott was saying. And I thought that was cool because that's what I did for Spanish with like my musical idols. So I was wondering, when you
yeah.
were diving into music, were you able to actually learn English? Were there certain bands that kind of, you know, helped you with your learning?
I think, it was very important in Finland, when I was growing up, that, the bands, local bands, they wanted to get somebody who can pronounce the, English the best, So if somebody couldn't, pronounce, Axl Rose, so then you're out, so it was very important to sound like English. But I think the message, of the words wasn't important at that time, when we were growing up, so it was just like a whatever, like a, oh baby, yeah, whatever, as long as it sounds English, it's very sounds like a sounds cool. But like later on, like all the words, like listening back to the word, like the records I've been, playing, back in a kid. So now it's a total new meaning, for the words. Now that you understand more about the English language and, a little bit more depth, to that, But when we were like little kids, we didn't care about, too much about that, So as long as you sounded cool and English, that was enough at that time.
That's pretty cool.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. What's the little one's name?
This is Frankie, and he's sitting here like punching my leg with his paws, like pick me
Yeah.
up, put me up, and I'm like, go away, dude. And he's not going away. So
Yeah.
there,
Hi, Frankie.
say hi.
Yeah, that's nice.
The first time you guys got together, you guys wrote Atmosphere, which is a pretty damn powerful song. So, walk us through how initially you guys came to meet and form the band as a duo. I don't know if there was other people in the band at the time, but could you walk me through? Because I do remember this great story. We're going to go back to it, is where, like, when you guys first met, Arno was a little bit more reserved, a little bit more quiet. And then the VK, the first time you guys actually heard him say anything, he was driving, and all of a sudden you guys hear him, you're like, oh shit, and you're like, oh wait, he said something.
We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die.
Yeah.
So we were in another band, and there were 5 people in that band, and Arno just wasn't really very chatty at that point in time. And I mean, granted, he's not exactly gonna start his own podcast, but he was definitely not chatty at that point in time. And we were driving this van that we had bought off Craigslist for $2,000. Pro tip, kids, don't do that. And we got to Oklahoma City. That's right. It was Oklahoma City. It was like 3 a.m, and Arno was driving, because Arno always volunteered to drive, because God bless him, the man volunteered to drive. And he hadn't said much the whole trip. And then suddenly I heard him go, shit. And that quick, everyone was wide awake, because we knew if Arno was saying shit, we were on death's door. That was it. It was all over. We were going to die. And we realized the van was going really, really, really fast, and it wasn't slowing down. And it was something with the brakes that time. And Arno somehow masterfully managed to get us off to the side of the road without dying. But it was pretty darn close. And then the next night it actually did die on him. So, and he was driving again. So the poor man.
But yeah, that was cruise control. Cruise control got on, and it was just accelerating. So then we had to, I had to brake, and there were lots of traffic also. And, we were driving like 80 miles per hour, but I was looking for a place, where I could, turn off the engine. And when you turn off the engine, you don't have steering. So so that's what we had to do, in order to, pull over, So, but anyways, I was chatty, but when you have 5 people in a band, everybody knows, what they're doing, and everybody's, what's the use of, for me to say anything, So, I think it was always like, hey, okay, sure, fine, sounds good,
Yeah.
But yeah.
So that band kind of dissolved. Things just kind of fell apart. And there were three of us then. It was me, Arno, and the drummer. And the drummer was actually there when we wrote Atmosphere, because when the other two left, we decided we wanted to make a change material wise, because what we were doing was pretty much traditional symphonic metal. And Arno and I kind of accidentally discovered that we both liked blues and classic rock and metal. And I don't even remember how that came out, except at some point it was like the Black Crowes. I like the Black Crowes. Oh, I like the Rolling Stones. Well. So we thought, okay, well, we have a chance to start fresh here. Let's see what we can come up with. So we said, okay. So we, like I said on the tour, we got a case of Bud Light because Arno likes Bud Light, and we drank it and we wrote Atmosphere. And we thought, well, I think we got something here. Let's see where we go from there. So we just kept writing, and we put out 3 EPs, and then the drummer moved back home to his native lands, as people tend to do in LA. They kind of get to that point where they're like, well, it's time to go. So he left. And when he left, Arno and I were like, well, 2 people is not a band, man. That's what we said at the time. So we thought we're going to start looking for another drummer. And we had definite needs in terms of, we wanted someone that was cool, someone who would like the same music we like, or at least want to play that music, someone who would contribute in terms of writing and being part of the band, not just a hired gun. We wanted someone who was like an adult. We didn't want someone who had just kind of gotten out of high school and was like, here we go. We were like, no, we didn't want to play that game. So there were a lot of things we needed, and we weren't finding it. And so then suddenly Arno said, and I think he's going to be eternally sorry he said it. But I remember him saying, when he actually texted me, he's like, I could just program a drummer. And I was like, okay. I thought he was serious. Maybe he wasn't, but we'll never know, because what happened then was he had to program a drummer. And so he did. And we had a manager at that time. Actually, Mary Zimmer from Hellion Prime was managing us at that time. And she said, well, let's try this out. Let's see what it's like with just the 2 of you. So she booked something for us at Club Red in Arizona, and we went, and that was our first show as a duo, and it went really well. The promoter came up afterwards and he said, the craziest thing is, I knew there were 2 of you up there, but it didn't seem like there were 2 of you. It seemed like there was like a bunch of people up there, because you guys are nuts. And we thought, okay, let's just run with this until we find the guy. And you know what, we just have never found the guy yet. So now we've done another record, and we've done a tour, and it's been a really good exercise as artists to see what you can do when the pressure is on. Like, this business is going to throw stuff at you, and I think Victor goes the spoils. I think the person who hangs in there and learns to change with things is the person who's going to keep going. And challenges are going to come. So what are you going to do? Are you going to cry about it, or are you going to make it work? And, we made it work. So at this point, then now we're really going to be picky. And, the drummer is going to really have to be someone that we want, because we know now we can do it without them. And that's a good feeling to know that we've got a hold on this thing. We know what our sound is. We know what our look is. We know what we are trying to convey, what our message is. So now we just need someone who can be part of that.
And it's a truly unique look. Like, listening to the interviews, like, Arno, I cannot envision you in this pink getup you said you used to come out. And, of course, like, VK, you used to have the corsets, but you guys truly have mastered, finding your particular avenue, how to present yourself. Even you, VK, you do the artwork and, all the lyrics, like, very creative mindset you guys have.
I can't take responsibility for the artwork. That's not me. That's Bo Bradshaw. He did all the artwork. The only artwork I do is, what's on my head. But yeah, the lyrics, yes.
But I think they definitely like the style, and our, like what you're saying, like it's an artwork what we have, fits very well with our music and with the album. And that was amazing about Bo Bradshaw. He listened to a few songs, right, and then he wanted to do the artwork, kind of like find the right kind of artwork, what he wanted for us. And I think it fits, everything, music, the artwork and the looks, I think, it's good right now.
When I listen, and I really want to strike it home how diverse your EPs and your albums can be. Back to the idea, you can have an acoustic song, you can have a metal song, you can have both meshed, and then of course there's these songs where it's like, man, it is such a beautiful mix of like, I can see myself playing these video games, I can see the song in these movies, you know. I'm curious of the writing process you guys have between each other. Is it more so Arno, you come up with the idea, present it to Lynne, and then she writes with it, and then you guys come up with the rest? Or is it more so everything's just organic when you get together in the studio and you guys just go back and forth and bounce the ideas, considering you guys are accomplished musicians?
I think it's
every
both.
possible way. Yeah, exactly. It's both. I mean, there have been times when Arno will usually on a holiday. I have a lot of MP3s that are labeled St. Patrick's Day or Easter or blah blah blah. Like Arno tends to write on holidays, and he'll send me an idea, and then I'll just kind of start fiddling around with it and seeing what I can come up with, you know, vocally and lyrically. Or there are times when I'll send him something, and you know, because I have songs that like, because my production skills are I can't even say production skills. I can't even say that. My fiddling around with buttons. I've tried to produce some songs and I send them to Arno and he's like, okay, let me make that into
No. I think that they're great. They're great. I'll get the vibe. I always get the vibe, and I get, you know, like the feeling of that. You know, definitely.
Yeah, he does. And you know, there have been songs like Crawl. I mean, I had written Crawl, I guess maybe 8 years before I met Arno, and I just could never. I produced this version of it that sounded so bad, but I knew in the kernel of it what was there, and I just didn't know how to make the corn pop. And I sent it to Arno, and he was like, and I was, oh, there you go, that's it. So it's, you know, we both have ideas and then we both throw them back and forth at each other. And then there are the songs where we actually have sat in a room together, but that hasn't, I mean, since the pandemic, we weren't able to do that. So that was a lot of back and forth, you know, here's an MP3, here's an idea. So, you know, it really depends. And once again, I think that is a testament to, okay, this seems to work, because no matter what writing challenges have been thrown at us, we still managed to keep making music. It's like, you got a pandemic? Fine, we'll just keep going. You know, we don't have any like equipment right now. Fine, we've got an acoustic guitar. We'll make that work. You know, it's whatever we need to do, we'll make it work. We'll just keep making it work.
And you guys have made it work. You released. I was going to say you relaunched. You guys released music videos during the pandemic. You also were able to have the Venomous montage come out. Speaking of which, guys, there's a couple of tunes you got to listen to. Rebels and Riders, Fight, Keep, Boots, Fire, and Sorrow. Let me say this. Listening to Rebel Riders felt like a Bruce Springsteen song that he never wrote. It was like, it was totally its own. And to me, I had to ask, like, what was the inception of that particular tune, at least for the riff, and then as you guys progressed?
I was going through a wicked Killers period. I was listening to the Killers a lot, and I'm a huge fan of Brandon Flowers as a songwriter. And so I got on Arno's case and I said, you know, I want this song to have like a Killers riff and blah, blah, blah. And he said, all right. Because, you know, he usually says, all right. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we thought about that song for 2 years because he didn't like it. And I liked it and he didn't like it. And we went back and forth. And I'm so glad we didn't give up on that song because I love that song.
Yeah, I think, you know, we don't give up, you know, to songs. I think we evolve all the time, and the production is getting better. And, you know, well, you know, now this song might work better now. So I think sometimes it's good to wait and, you know, just let it cook over there, you know, a couple of years, and then take it back, you know, back up and see, you know, what can we do with that, you know. So I think, you know, it's very, very good song, and I like the way it came out, and it has a good energy, but definitely it has the New Jersey, it has Bruce Springsteen kind of you know, sparkle. I like it, and you know, it came out very well, and I was very hesitant a couple of years ago.
He was.
But now listening to you saying it's a Killers inspired, I'm like, you know what, damn, I can hear that too. You know, it's so many influences. But you know, something that really was cool that I saw that happened was Fight ended up being your most played song on your Spotify 1 month, and the two countries that were really digging it, and we're talking far away, were Ukraine and the Czech Republic. And considering especially what's happening in Ukraine right now, that's like a rally cry. That's the only thing I can assume is they're using that as a rally cry to try and help their efforts, you know. You know, when you initially got that news, you know, it's great to hear like, yo, you know, we are number one in another country, or this is our most played in the other country. But did that news of that particular area hit a little bit more different than just somebody saying like, yo, I dig your tunes?
For me, definitely. I was really shocked because I thought in the middle of everything that's going on, how do they even have time to listen to music? You know what I mean? You kind of feel like if you're in the middle of that kind of thing, you have no time for anything. But then I realized, well, actually, that's exactly when you have time for it. That's when you need music and art and things like that. And I was so like astonished that something that Arno and I wrote would be comforting or helpful to anyone who's in that kind of situation. And that's why you do it. I mean, those are great moments because then you feel like, okay, I did something today. Today I did something and it matters. And because sometimes you wonder, does any of this matter? Does anybody care? And they do. They do. You might not know it. You might not ever hear about it. You might not ever see it, but it does matter.
And there's validation in that, you know. And considering that you guys, could you explain a little bit more to me the awards you've won consecutively over 12 awards over 4 years? You know, for me, there's certain awards in different sports, different, you know, avenues as far as writing, chess, you know, music. You know, if I were to rattle them off, a lot of people would look at me like, yeah, well, what does that mean? So could you guys explain to me what the LA award system that you guys keep on receiving actually represents, and you know what kind of competition you guys have actually beaten?
Are the people in our colleagues, I guess you could say, the people that are, you know, that were you know in our same circle and sphere and all that good stuff. But the thing is, I don't even think the LA Music Critic Awards exist anymore. That's what's crazy. I think, you know, they kind of had a period there where every year it was a big deal, and then I think it just kind of died out. But during those few years, it was really kind of cool in that they seemed to really like us, and we were really flattered about that. It was, I guess there were a panel of 4 or 5 industry professionals, and then they would vote amongst themselves and decide who won. And there were times when I would just be shocked that we even got nominated for things, because you sometimes you don't know. Did anyone notice that we put that out? Like, did anyone see us do that? And yeah, they did. They really did. You know, they kind of just saw our stuff up and then checked it out. So that was cool. Arno looks like he's about to
Yeah.
say something impressive.
You know, I was absolutely, you know, like same thing what I feel all the time. You know, I mean, when we, you know, put out a new song or new album, is anybody even listening to this? You know, so but I guess, you know, there are people, you know, who enjoy, you know, enjoy the music. And so yeah, just, you know, like you know, it's weird, you know.
Yeah, it's weird, but it's cool at the same time. It's like one of the awards we got was for an Indiegogo campaign that we did, where we pretended the idea was that Arno and the drummer were kidnapped and that I was getting ransom notes, and so I was trying to raise money to ransom the guys, so that we could make music again. And we made all these bizarre videos of like them in captivity and chained to things and whatnot. And so we won an award for best video series for that, because it was potentially the weirdest Indiegogo anyone's ever done.
Yeah.
And you know, that it was fun, but we didn't expect any of that. We expected people to be like, these guys are out of their minds, and we were, but we got an award for it. So we're okay, great.
Yeah.
Like,
I think that's great to, you know, to give something, you know, when you're trying to, you know, like collect some money. And so definitely you have to give something for the people, you know. And I think, you know, that was a good idea. And yeah, you know, just, you know, be original, you know. So don't do the, you know, the normal way, you know. Just, you know, like work a little bit harder, you know, to give some little bit more of yourself.
And it's pretty great that you guys mentioned that, because you also have the Patreon that's going, and all the little things, the little details when somebody watches what you're doing behind the scenes. You know, a lot of people still, even with all the, you know, behind the scenes social media, they still don't connect. You know, it's like, this is what it really takes to do and work in this field. You know, but back before we go on to that, you guys mentioned the Whiskey Go Go. You know, it said Go Go, so I'm thinking Whiskey Go Go. But you guys have done, you know, the Viper Room, the Go Go, a bunch of other places. You know, what was the for you individually, the both of you, what so far has been the most hallowed ground you've actually played, and what's a spot you're hoping to go to too? You know, if I were ever make it big like you guys are doing and going to, I would say Wells Fargo Center in Philly. But other people, it might be MSG. So what places have you played that were pretty like, wow, this is great, and then where are you hoping to go soon?
Metal Female Voices Fest was kind of like the hallowed ground. Like, okay, this is nuts. Where I'm in Belgium, and the first year that I played, it was Eve's Apple playing. It was a bunch of women in metal, and I was opening the show for some reason. I have no idea how that ended up happening, but it was just me and my acoustic guitar playing my song Black Halo, and that's how we opened the whole weekend. So I walk out there all by myself in my little pink tutu, because I had a pink tutu at that time. And there's, you know, 1,500 people who showed up for the opening night, which they were so shocked. The guy who started Metal Female Voices Fest said, I expected like 100 people to come to the opening night, and he's like, we're packed. Oh my gosh. And so I thought, okay, well, you know, what's going to happen here? Because Black Halo is a blues rock song. So, but I played it. And then I just said, welcome to the there was a pause, and then everyone went, and I was like, okay, we got him. And I came off stage, and Lisa Middlehove from Xandria was there. She's the first singer for Xandria, and she's the reason I'm in metal right now. And she grabbed me by the hands and she said, metal is all about being yourself. And tonight you are the most metal motherfucker in this place in your little pink tutu. And that was just kind of amazing for me, that the metal community who didn't know me from Adam at that point really just kind of took me under their wing. Like, I mean, I've played singer-songwriter, blues, hard rock music for years up to that point, and no scene had really taken me in and said, she's with us until metal. And so metal's always going to have a place in my heart, because they, for no reason at all, they just accepted me and said, yep, she's ours, we'll take her. So that was wicked cool.
Yeah, for me, I don't know, I think there's, you know, like in Los Angeles, we're talking about the venues, of course Hollywood Bowl would be, then you really made it, you know, if you are playing in Hollywood Bowl. I mean, that would be amazing. Or Greek, you know, fits, you know, 4,000 or 5,000 people, you know. So of course, or even I've never even been in a Troubadour, you know, which is on Santa Monica Boulevard in West Hollywood. In those places, any of those places, I would be just right now, I'm ready to go, you know. So
Being that, you know, it's a weird concept to me. I've always had the metal idea, like Lemmy Kilmister, you know, girls can rock. Yet, you know, you guys are a duo with a lead singer that's a female, and you guys have still gotten some scrutiny. Maybe not as much now, but, you know, there's always the guy that's a smart ass, and he's like, oh, girls can't rock. And then after the end of the show, you know, it's like, oh my God, that was so great. You kicked ass, you know. I always enjoy hearing those stories where you guys, you know, overcome. Like, it's like the worst reception prior to, and then afterwards, it was like the biggest F you moment. You know, separately, can you guys remember a moment as a band where, like, either V, you were getting heckled, or Arno, something just wasn't going right and somebody was being a, you know, smart ass? You know, what is a moment while you guys have been on tour where it's like, bet, let me show you what we can do, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, validation?
Honestly, on this past tour, the thing that's the one that stuck with me was there was kind of an old weathered kind of sound guy who was, you could tell he was very cocky. He felt like, I've been doing this for 100 years, and I'm like, okay, buddy. And he said, all right, well, we'll see what we got here, because he's plugging us all in. And then he starts to go back to his soundboard, and he stops next to me and he pats me on the shoulder and he goes, so, let's see how strong your voice is. And I texted my mom and she goes, did you give it to him? And I said, oh, I gave it to him. I gave it to him. Because, you've seen us play, I'm loud. I'm not a quiet singer. I'm not a bashful singer. And after the show that night, he came up to me and was all Mr. Nice Guy, bought me a drink, the whole thing. And I thought, dude, like, why did it have to be that way? Why we got to be like that? Like, you would never do that to a dude. You would never do that to a dude. But there reaches a point. I've been doing this a really, really long time, and you just kind of got to let it roll off your back, because there's going to be these guys. But to their credit, there's become a lot more guys who don't do that. A lot of guys are now like, okay, we've seen women in this role a good bit now. There's a lot of women out there doing what I'm doing. And so it's becoming more normalized. There's always going to be that guy, but you can let it roll off. You can let it roll off. I always tell the young ones coming up, I'm like, don't let it bother you. You just do your thing. Like, that's the thing. You go up there and you do you, and then they won't have any more questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, what I'm thinking also the same thing. What it's not about women or men. It was our setup over there during the tour, because we have very, very unique setup over there. We don't have a drummer or bass player, we're just two of us. So it was that attitude from a lot of the sound guys beforehand was very okay. Who are you and what are you doing over here? So that kind of attitude, but that kind of attitude always makes me to play harder and just rock harder and just give more, and I think that's good, just keeps you on your edge all the time, and just make you better musician and better performer when you have people who have doubt with you, that's all you can do, just get better.
You guys are so graceful. I'll be over here like, yo, I'll handle this now, bro. Let's go. But I don't.
When I was young, maybe, but
Man, I don't know what it is about sound guys, and I know it's like a rough life all around, but they do tend to be the edgier, the cockier, the more mean. I just don't know what is about.
I think they see a lot of bands every single night, and I think that's and I understand that and don't get me wrong, they were amazing people all the time, and they did their best for the whole tour, they were a lot of great guys, but you always meet somebody like that, but yeah, it's we do have a different setup than most bands, so it's definitely I do understand the attitude towards that.
But I will say this, people. He was not when I offered the roadie, because that's my thing. I try and help out the bands. They weren't letting me play. They weren't playing with their equipment. Like, nah, this is ours. We got it. Don't worry. But
Yeah.
Something fascinating. And Arno, I wanted to ask you this when you first came on, man. I didn't know what your job is, because a lot of working musicians have to keep food on the table while they're pursuing the dreams. I know V, you work for a nonprofit helping kids, which is phenomenal as well. So I was curious what you were doing, and then how you guys fell into your respective jobs.
I've been doing this and that, I've never had after college, I've never done advertising public relations work, when I graduated, not in one single day. So I've been doing a warehouse work. I've been doing construction. Right now I'm doing construction. The next month I'm going to Coachella Music Festival. I'll be working over there as a supervisor, and so all kinds of then a movie industry, being a PA or a gaffer, and just you've always find a job, but would be nice to find a job within the rock industry, so you wouldn't have to go so far to from building a house to prep yourself for the practice or gig at the evening, so but yeah, all kinds of work, so as long as we get the money, when I get back home, it's computer and music, and that's the when the day really starts.
And V, how'd you fall into your line of work? Because mira, I got friends that are like, the amounts of stress they have from working in the city, working with people, social work. You know, it's mira. That's a lot of creative lyrics right there, just from the stories. So how'd you fall into that
Yeah.
line of work? You know.
Well, I was an English teacher for about 15 years. And so words for me are like a thing. I'm like a weird grammar person. If you ever get a chance on YouTube, there's a show called Drunk Grammar, and that is me and a fellow teacher. We would get a little tipsy and talk about grammar. We had, pronouns and prosecco and things like that, and we would just explain grammar. So I write as well, since I write lyrics. I mean, I also write poetry, I write novels and stuff like that. I've got some books on Amazon. And one of the things that I did in that sphere was grant editing. And so for the Hiltons, they have a foundation, and my friend worked there, and he had messaged me and said, "Hey, I need you because we have like 300 grants to edit here, and I'm losing my mind." And he said, "I just need these to be like grammar perfect. Can you do it?" And I was like, "Sure," because I was like, I could use some side work at the time. So I did, and they really liked what I did. So then I just started editing for them. Well, when he started working for the foundation that I work for now, he messaged me again and he said, "Hey, would you be interested in doing this? I need your help again, essentially." And so I met with the woman who runs the foundation, and it's, a foundation that helps like foster youth, special needs, and like sex trafficked kids. And so that was right. As soon as you talk about children, I'm like, yes, 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 I'm here. I will do it, whatever you need. And so I started working with her, and because I was about done teaching. I think there's a cap on how long you can teach high school before you turn into a lunatic. And I was pretty close to turning into a lunatic. So then I started working for the foundation, and it is sometimes where you, like you said, you're like, oh my gosh, you come home with these terrible stories and whatnot. But it does make for good lyrics, because I think to write songs that affect people, you have to live. You have to live, or you at least have to be in touch with the world who is living. The artists, those artists, that you loved their songs when they were in pain, but then when things started going well for them, their songs kind of got boring. And it's because they were too comfortable. They were too comfortable. They didn't have anything to tackle anymore lyrically. So if you're not going through anything yourself personally, you have to go dig around and find out who is going through something. So who can you write about? Who can you help? And fortunately or unfortunately, I had a real shitty few years there that I could write a lot of crap about. So I did. And now, things have gotten a lot better, but I still can now pull on these resources to write about. So it's actually good. I mean, there's always a way to make something good out of something bad. And so that's what we try to do.
And that's a perfect segue into Enough. Enough was a difficult song. Arno, you wrote it because your father just recently passed, and you started dealing with these panic attacks. And Mira,
Yeah, yeah.
you wrote the song on about Arno. So I wanted to know, has that been the most difficult song you guys ever had to construct? And what about your friendship? You guys being on the same level, you were able to craft it. Was it difficult because it was so emotional, or just because you guys are on that same musical wavelength that kind of just, you know what, here's the pain, let's create it?
I think I think what VK did over there, with everything, it's complemented what I had an idea first, and I think it came together very, very well. And yeah, it was heavy times at that time, so I just wanted to write like a good rock song, and I don't know, just let it all out, kind of like after that loss. But yeah, it I think it works out great. And both of us, we're on the same level, with the energy. And so I love to play that song live, and I think it's a good song. And just couldn't be happier with that right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we never talked about it before we wrote it, because that's not necessarily how Arno and I roll. um, it's interesting. Everything is theoretical. He sent me that, and I knew what was going on with him pretty much at that time, and so I was listening to the song, and I guess I was just trying to get into his head a little bit, because if you ask Arno questions, he's only going to give you so many answers. So I was like, right, well, let me think. If I'm Arno right now, like, what am I thinking? And I just wanted him to know that, like, there was something on the other side of it, that it was going to be, there was going to be more, that, you know, what's
Yeah.
going on now isn't enough. There's going to be more. And so I don't know, that was just kind of where I was at. And so I just kind of scribbled, and,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and away we went.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's for this tour as an opening song, I think it was a very, very, it worked very, very well. It has a good energy, and it has a, little middle parts, and, going to different space, like, and coming back. So I think, it's always a, good song to play. Very important for me.
Yeah.
Could you guys elaborate on the tour? Because, at least from my standing, that night was so many great things. It's just one of those rock shows. You go out, it's like, oh my God, here's a buddy I haven't seen in 5 years. Here's a band that I've been, I've had interactions with. Here's a new band that are chilling with me. There were so many great moments from that night, and the one that sticks out for me with you guys, V, you were like, hey, I know this isn't as hard of a rock song as you guys may like, but you're gonna dig it. And I'm like, I don't know. That was pretty kick ass for it not being a rock song. So could you elaborate, like, at least on the New Jersey show, if you had any stories or any moments on the road with Visions, whether it's just you guys or with them, like, what happened during this tour that you guys will hold in your memories fondly?
Well, for me, the story that I've told a bunch of times since we've gotten back is, in Minneapolis, we played Caboose, and that's the only venue that Arno and I had played together before this tour. And we did 9 years ago, when we were with that other band. We had been on tour with White Empress, and we had played Caboose. And I mean, like I said, it's 9 years ago. The band is different now. The songs are different now. We don't play a single song from that time. So 9 years go by, and we get to Minneapolis, and it's freezing cold, and it's wet. It's just so wet. I that's what I remember from Minneapolis, because I was helping carry things, and I stepped into a puddle, and instantly I was up to my ankles in water, and I thought, well, this isn't good. I'm gonna get sick, because that was my big thing. I just, like, if I get sick and can't sing, we are screwed, because, like, then it's just Arno. And then he's like, what the hell do I do now? So the whole tour, I was just trying not to get sick. I was like, I just can't get sick. So that was kind of in my mind. So we're in Minneapolis. I'm like stressing out. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get, like, try to get dry and whatnot. We play the show, and then we're at the merch table, and I had seen this woman in the front row, and she had been kind of staring up. And I realized she had a cane, and I realized she was blind. And so we're at the merch table, and someone kind of helped her make her way over. And then Arno said something, I can't remember what he said, but he said something funny, Arno, and she said, I sense that I'm at the Spider Accomplice table now. And we said, yes, you are. And she's like, I want to get a t-shirt. And so she's like, basically just pick one for me, because, so we found our size. I picked one out for her. And, we said, like we said, everyone, we're so glad you're here. We're glad you made it. And she said, yeah, but, I've heard you before. And I went, really? She said, yeah. She said, I heard you. She's like, I've heard your voice. She said, about 9 years ago, you were here with a band called From Light Rose the Angels. And I almost passed out. I was like, this woman didn't even see us, but she heard us 9 years ago, and she remembered that. And I was like, what? Holy Moses. I was blown away by that. I was completely blown away by that. I was like, stick a fork in me. I'm done. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember her.
Yeah.
Yeah. the whole tour, I can't pinpoint anything, it was just amazing, every night, and again,
What about that young guy in Dallas? No, was it Dallas? No, it was Dallas. Remember that young guy in Dallas who came over to you and he was like, "Oh my God, this guitar! Oh well, this poor kid was losing his mind. I thought he was gonna cry. He was like,
yeah.
he was like Arno's biggest fan instantly. Like he had come over before Arno got there, and he's like, Where's Arno? Where's the guitar player? He's like, I gotta talk to him. I gotta talk to him. And I was like, he's coming, man, he's coming. And then when Arno got over there, I swear he like practically got on his knees and was like, oh my God, like it was adorable because like, especially when you're grown up like we are, and he was so young, and it was like him and his boys were there. They were I really thought he was gonna weep over Arno. Like he was just like, it was like, he's so amazing. And like, even after Arno walked away, he was still telling me, he's like, and then he did this thing. I'm like, dude, I know, I see him do it every night. I know what he did, but he's like, he's just telling me all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, Arno really has a new fan here. Like this kid is like, he's at home right now trying to play Arno's riffs. I guarantee it. I guarantee it.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. And like the whole tour, we saw so many amazing people. Just it was just so warm welcome for us. It was unbelievable. Definitely. So every single venue, just people were so nice. So I can't remember any kind of bad stuff. At all. So it was pretty spectacular tour.
That's because all those fans were on their knees, man. I'm not lying when I tell you guys, I swear, I come in empty as can be, and then there's just like 2-3 people with you, man, and that's before anybody's there. First thing, where's the Spider Accomplice? Here he is, and walks over. I'm like, yo, this dude, I know he gonna be that. So I think you're downplaying your level of fame, my good sir. But again, just from one guitar player to another, truly impressive. You have this ease. And everybody talks about the greats being able to fly from the next thing to the next thing, and that's kind of what I think is gravitating these people to you as a player. Like for me, I would have to think like, okay, if I really want to make a noise that's musically sound and is sounds good to me, it takes a thought process. But when we see you play, you just you have that professionalism of like, I know where it's at, I practiced enough, but I'm also going to throw this in here for you. So
like again, my playing style, it's not so, yes, it's not, I'm not per se like a metal player. I'm more like a rock and roll player, and I definitely utilize vibrato of a BB King a lot, and so there's a lot of influences what influenced me as a guitar player. And I think that's the same thing as a songwriting. I think that's the richness of us, we have different kind of like songs. We have 80s songs, we have blues songs, we have metal songs, and combined everything together. So I think that's also what we stand for is, let's just sound like us. Let's not sound like any other band, or let's not belong to some genre. Let's just do our thing, what we want to do. So I think that keeps us enjoying the performance. Every night I went on the stage, I was in heaven, because I get to play the songs the way I want, and I don't need to belong or look like anybody else. So
as a fan of music, to me, my aspirations, if I ever really were to pursue music, would be where you're at now. You guys have released music, you guys have a fan base, you guys are touring. That's everybody that just is on the outside, they just want to be like the stars. They want to be traveling the stadiums and arenas, but the real musicians are the ones, I got paid $5 to play at a hole in the wall, but I got to play. That's where the true love for the craft is. What goals do you guys still have now that you've really cemented, like, this is what we are, this is our sound, here's where we're going?
Well, I want to stay on the road, until the rest of the life, so that's pretty much it, so yeah, I don't know. I think, just, play as much as possible, wherever, and just enjoying, having a good time, recording, and yeah, music is amazing. It's just like the biggest thing in life, for me, so.
Yeah, I mean, the good news about Arno and I is we both really love the road. We really, really do. And we both take to it pretty quickly. Both of us are pretty easy in terms of, we can live on the bus. We can live with that. I mean, Arno washed his stage clothes with a garden hose while we were on the road. Yeah, I know he's like a caveman sometimes. But that's good because you don't have a lot of options sometimes on the road, and it doesn't matter. Like, no matter what happens during the day, that hour on stage makes it worth it. It really does. And you just can't wait to get up the next morning and do it again. And I said to Meek, the singer from Visions of Atlantis, I said, I think you're going to have to adopt Arno because he's not going home. I think he's staying with you. So yes, we are definitely looking into going out again, going out as much as humanly possible, because honestly, we're a cheap date, man. There's two of us and our gear is compact. I think we're an easy sell. You don't have a million people, you don't have a ton of gear, you don't have a big old drum rack and everything. You just got us, and we're not going to get crazy. We're not going to get arrested. We're not going to cause any problems for you. Just throw us out on stage. We'll play the show. We'll sell our merch, and, we'll call it a day. So I think, I mean, I've been talking to a few promoters, and what I've been hearing is, oh, wow, you guys are pretty easy. You should be out on the road a lot more. I'm like, yes, correct. Yes. Throw us right out there. So the goal is to stay on the road. And for me, it's for us to make enough money that we can make more music, because making music does require money, and we want to keep making better music. And so the more involved the music is, and the more, famous, I guess you could say, that you get with the mixing and mastering guy, well, the price goes up. But there are times when it's like, oh, wouldn't it be great to have a violin here? Or wouldn't it be great to have somebody playing, blah, blah, blah here? Well, okay, great. We need a budget for that. So for me, I would love it if we could reach a point where we're making enough money that we can just really, really get crazy with the music, even more so than we have. And we've gotten pretty crazy. But I think we both have kind of big ideas musically, and I would love for our budget to match our ideas, So that's kind of, for me, one of the things I'm trying to figure out how we can do.
But that's not too far off. The thing that truly impressed me was how you guys present yourself. The Spotify, the promotion that you sent me. Like, that flyer was like, damn, I need you guys to look into promoting me. Help me out with that. Everything was laid out in a way that couldn't be messed up. This is where to find us. This is what we're known for. This is what we do. This is where we've been. Hire us. And it was such a straightforward, easy to look at flyer as well. Sometimes you see these flyers and you don't know what the hell it is. You guys were, boom, this is what you're getting. A kick-ass show. I always end the interviews with the most important question. What is the best piece of advice that readily comes to mind that you've been given? Not something you made up, but something you heard. It could have been a serious chat, like, hey, let me tell you something real quick, this, that. Or it could have been something you overheard, but, you heard it, and for some reason when things get crazy or something's just happening, it just comes to your mind. I think the best example I got is Ted Aguilar right before the pandemic, going through hell and high water. I went to go see Death Angel and Overkill, but we were talking and he goes, dude, just live. You don't know where the world is going. I know people on their deathbed, etc., but the timing of where I was in life and everything preceded that has stuck with me since then. So has there been advice someone's given you guys respectively that has done the same?
VK?
I will say the advice that I feel like I've lived by came from a book, of course, because for me, it always comes from a book. And when I was 12, I read a book, and there was a quote in it that said, when fear seizes, change what you are doing, something is wrong. And I've always lived by that. Like, if I'm genuinely afraid of something, it means something has to change. A lot of people are really afraid of change, and where I'm really more afraid of staying stagnant. and maybe it's because of what I read when I was a kid, but I feel like you have to be willing to change. And so I'm always willing to change. The second piece of advice goes with it. There's a preacher named Joyce Meyer, and she says, do it afraid. Just do it afraid. And so I do. They're like, my sister, I told her, my family's always like, oh, VK, she's always out there doing her crazy stuff. And I'm like, right, but you don't know that inside I'm going, ah! Like, I just do it afraid. Sometimes I am scared of things, and I'm like, oh gosh, this is going to be scary. But I'm like, you got to keep changing though. If you keep changing, you're going to head in the right direction. The fear is going to go away and something better is going to be there. So just do it afraid. Just do it afraid, and it'll all work out. And it has. If I'm terrified of something, I know that means I should probably do it, because it's like, okay, you better go do that.
Well, for me, it's, I know, immediately, after 10 minutes, this is over, then I'm like, oh gosh, now, that was amazing, I think, but right now I can't, think of anything else except, when you watch the movie Spinal Tap, and, the end texts are coming and they are interviewing the roadies and all the time. And then when the roadie says, what is your life motto? It's have a good time all the time. So I think that's the way he said it, and like it's half of it. It's true, But again, that was more of a joke than a real advice. But I can't really think of a good advice right now. I think I will hear that hopefully soon, and I can figure out my whole life.
There you go.
But meanwhile, I'm gonna have a good time all the time.
All the time.
But guys, let me tell you, what a joy that was to talk to you guys, especially to see you guys again after how much we chopped it up. Ladies and gentlemen, go check out the Spider Accomplice out now. They have this wonderful, beautiful song. It is called Fight. That's the one I'm going to plug. But now back to the full album. The Venomous Montage is out now. You can find the Spider Accomplice on Spotify, the website, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Patreon. And it's easy. The Spider Accomplice. Think that you got a spider in your head giving you ideas, spinning a web. And then when it comes out, you should go check them out. So guys, thank you so much for your time. It was a joy, really, to see you again.
Absolutely. Our pleasure. This is fun. Yes, awesome. 100%.
And everyone else, don't forget, be smart, be mindful, rock on. As always, Ninja out.
I'm Arno from the Spider Accomplice, and you're watching John the Ninja.
Woo, baby, you listen to John the Ninja. Oh, your ears are about to go on a vacation. John the Ninja's got what you need.